So welcome to Let's Cook Together. Today I'm teaching you to make scones. Scones are incredibly versatile. You can add different things to them. You can take things out. I'm teaching you to make some sweet scones today, which you can add chocolate chips to, cherries, dried fruit, you know, anything that takes your fancy basically. So the first thing we need to do is to switch our oven on. So ours is a fan-assisted oven, which means it gets hotter quicker and easier. So for us, a fan-assisted oven, it's 200 degrees. If it's not a fan-assisted, it's 220. So we've got our flour. We've got some various dry ingredients. Now, we've spoken previously about putting dry ingredients in. And what we've got here, if I can get the lid off, is some baking powder. So we're going to put that in. Got a little titch of salt. Salt is a flavour enhancer, and so it'll help these. But obviously, if you're on a low salt diet, you won't be adding salt. So again, we're mixing that in. Now, what we're doing is we're adding butter. And it's easier if you cut the butter up before you put it in the mixture. And the reason for this is we're going to be rubbing it in, and if it's in smaller pieces to start with, then it's a lot less messy. So put that in, and like that. Now, can you see that once I've put it in the flour, I'm just chopping it again, because the heat of my hands will melt the butter. So the less I touch it, the better. But we've got to get it incorporated. So it's worth spending the time just cutting it up while it's in the flour. So once you've got the pieces cut down, you're going to get your hands in. So I'm going to take my rings off. I've washed my hands already. I'm going to get them in. And what you're doing is you're using your fingertips. So, you know, show me the money. You know, like you do with that, you're rubbing them together. You're doing that in there, and you're just using your fingertips because the palms of your hand will make it warm. So look how it's almost like you're pinching the flour and the butter together. Like that. Now, what this does is this coats your flour. And this is very important for the consistency and the texture of your scones. Now, can you see, if I shake it like this, we've still got some lumps of butter. So we have to get those. So if you want to check it, this is the hardest part of this recipe, I promise you. But it's well worth it if you take the time to make sure that the butter and the flour are completely combined. So that's all. It looks like breadcrumbs. There's no lumps of fat in here, and we are ready to go. So the next part that we're going to do is we're going to add our sugar. And again, this is semi-dry, and we're adding the other dry ingredients. And this is so that it's easier to combine them. So we'll just stir that in. And again, there's a few lumps of sugar in there. Just spend some time just making sure that all the lumps are out. And I very often use a knife when I'm making sort of doughs and things like this, because you can scrape the knife. It's easier than having a spoon where things can collect in the sort of round part of the spoon. So here's our milk. We've warmed it in the microwave, and it's slightly warm. You don't want it too hot. You don't want it too cold. And what we're going to add to that is our vanilla essence, and this is for flavour. And then we're just going to add, so there's our vanilla essence going in. And then we're going to add just a dash of lemon. Just a dash. Going to give that a stir. And we'll just set it aside there for a second. Make sure all this is completely combined. Might just get my hands in there. I can still see some lumps of sugar. Now, when you're happy that all the ingredients are in there and that there's no big lumps, you're going to make a well in the middle of your mixture. And then you're going to pour your milk in. You're going to get your knife and you're going to stir it so that it goes into a dough. So can you see all the ingredients are just being combined beautifully? You don't want to overwork this mixture. You just want it to form a soft dough, and then we're going to roll it out and shape it and get these in the oven. So again, at this point, you might want to get your hands in just so it forms a nice soft dough like that. Now, before we start shaping it, we are going to put our oven tray, or our tray that we're going to use, into the oven. And the reason why that is we do want the scones to cook on the bottom, and by heating the tray up, it helps that cooking process. Now, for rolling out, you need some flour. I've got this in this, but you can just pick it out and sprinkle it. You need to make sure that you've floured your surface and that your rolling pin also has some flour on it. This is to stop the mixture from sticking. And again, we don't have to roll it out really thick, really thin. We just want it sort of that kind of thickness, really. That's good and thick. We're ready to cut out. Our dough's nice and thick. I'm going to use this side. You put it on, and then if you just wiggle it a little bit, and it comes out like that. Again, wiggle it a bit. Now, some of these are a little bit uneven on the top. I like that. I think it adds a bit of texture to it. It makes them look rustic and authentic. If you want a slightly smoother dough on the top, you can knead it a little bit more, but be careful with that because overworking the dough will make your scones quite tough. You almost want to just have it so that it's loosely combined, and then you get that nice fluffy texture. So now we've got to that stage, scooch it back up. You can even flatten it out with your hands. You know, I've made scones before where I haven't necessarily rolled it. And again, that's about the right thickness. Now, when it's getting down to the last little bit, I wouldn't use a rolling pin, I'll just do that. Here we go, a bit thicker. And then you can just have one as a trial one maybe on your tray. Now, what I'm going to do is get the tray out of the oven, put these on very quickly so that the tray doesn't cool down, and then put them in the oven. I'm going to need to space them out because these have a raising agent in them, self-raising flour, and they're going to expand. So I need to give them room so that when they expand, they don't touch the others and it squishes them. Right, now you need to move quite quickly on this because I've said before, we don't want our tray to cool down. We want to start them cooking. And this tray is hot, so be really careful when you're putting these down. Try not to touch them. Okay, we'll put that one on as a taster. And then we're going to put these in the oven, okay? So depending on the size of your scone, I would give those about 10-12 minutes and look at them through the door without opening the oven. If you open the oven door, you're letting the heat escape, you're stopping the food from cooking. So the best way of doing it is to position your shelf so that you can see through the oven door and just check them. So we'll come back and have a look at them in 12 minutes. Right, so they're out of the oven, and we need to cool them down. We need to put them onto a cooling rack. So heating the bottom of the tray has meant that these scones are lovely and cooked on the bottom, nicely cooked on the top, and when we open them up inside, they're absolutely gorgeous. Here are our scones and jam. We've put them with butter and jam. You can put them with cream. You can buy some clotted cream. This is a traditional way of serving them. I really hope you enjoy your scones.